What's up? It's Way Up with Angela Yee. This guy has definitely been way up. Chance the Rapper is here.
Thanks, Angela.
I see you got your merch on too. Starline.
I do.
Let me see this. That's really nice.
Yeah. No,
okay.
This is some of the new pieces. The pants is a collaboration with Kasubi. I love
I
that
like
denim.
Kasubi.
Yeah, and then this joint is this one's gonna be, I think, an exclusive. I could be wrong, but I think this is an exclusive with Complex Shop.
You are not playing with the merch, with the. I was actually. Here's a little secret. Before you got here today, I was watching you on live.
Yeah. When I was doing the talk shop.
Yeah, you were doing a talk shop.
Yeah.
So I had to sign up for it and go through all of that. So I was like, let me see what Chance is talking about.
That's right.
Because a lot of people haven't been getting information about Starline like that. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you've been giving us bits and pieces. We've been sending emails like, okay, so what are the collabs? And we got to wait for the album to come out.
I just don't want to give it away too soon. Like, there's something about like hearing a new body of work for the first time and still being able to be surprised and being able to enjoy it like on a level of like, this is all new versus like, anticipating what kind of song this kind of person would be on. Because I do have a few features. It's not a feature-heavy album, but the artists that are on there, some of the songs that they're on are different songs than they're typically on, or like, or I just want people to be surprised that I'm working with this person for the first time type stuff. So I think like I want to just like give everybody that's been waiting for the project.
And they've been waiting.
Yeah.
I feel like this has been a long time coming. We're going to talk about the evolution of Starline. I mean, I did see the video that you directed with Lil Wayne and the Tree with the NDRE sample.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's like...
It's cool.
I think that song is like a really good... Maybe not sonically, like the songs sound different, but like in terms of... I think it's a good thesis statement for the project. So, like the song... outwardly or like on your first surface listen, it just sounds like kind of like a weed song. It's fun. You get to hear the NDRE sample. There's like some like clever, funny bars, but as you like kind of strip away, or I guess like hone in on the purpose of the song, it's really in a lot of ways about the inequities or unfairness in the cannabis industry, how it's become a commercialized thing, but it's still people in prison for it. And it's also like largely a song dedicated to my mom or anybody else that's been, at some point kind of like otherized or felt like a taboo because of weed. Like, like weed's made like it's made a crazy rebrand in like the past 20 years, but there was a point.
That's done a whole 180.
When I was in high school.
Reinvent themselves, bro. Let me tell you, the rules around, it'd be the same politicians that were so against it, want to lock you up, are the same ones that are like trying to open up dispensaries.
They own MedMen, and they own like some of these, not to name drop brands, but I'm just saying like the whole way that people even go about it in terms of like the rich people having access to med cards or to grow cards. Prior to like anybody else that's like really trying to start up a business off of it. But also just like how we look at people. Like when I was in high school, like 15 years ago, I remember like coming into class smelling like weed, like freshman and sophomore year was like, people will look at you like you were a murderer or something. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
And then come to fiend, Chance.
Sophomore and junior year though, just Kush and orange juice changed a lot of people's perception on it. And so it's like over time you see it become more and more of just like a regular thing. But even still within like it becoming more normalized, there's still like a separate viewing of like how we think about weed as like a funny like thing that people just do or like as a joke in movies versus how they pair it with like hip hop culture or blackness. And it's like still taboo. And so I kind of wanted to make a song that like celebrated my mom, celebrated, people smoke weed, you know what I'm saying? Like, but like.
Even when you think about stop and frisk.
Yeah.
Right? A lot
that's
of people,
bad out here.
Yeah. But back then, black people in black neighborhoods get stopped and frisked and go to jail for weed.
Facts.
White people smoke weed just as much as black people do.
Facts.
But they're not going to end up going to jail for it and then have a
100%.
record that,
that follows them. 100%. And I think like hip hop is just like, I can't remember who it was. I think it was KRS-One was explaining like hip hop, the origin of the word, the hip and the hop of it. Like the hop is the movement. So it's like, it's movement in terms of dance and like, but also like culture in terms of what's, relevant at that time. And then also like the literal movement. Like, we all a part of the movement, even though it's not the 60s no more. Like we're all a part of society and we all have our opinions and we all use our power, whatever that is, your voice, your hands, your whatever, to push that shit for. Excuse me, to push that forward.
Oh, it's okay. You can curse.
Okay. But then on the side of like the hip, like he was explaining, that means like you got to get people hip to stuff. Like it's like intelligence that we passing along every time that we rap. And so whether it's like we describing a block, or we describing our love life, or we describing, you know, the money that we got or that we trying to make, like we're passing off intelligence every time. And so I think with this whole album, I'm trying to make it, or I made it fun to listen to, but also something that you could like go back and layer through and be like, oh, and learn something, and, you know, or like re-evaluate something just based off of, you know, how dense some of the lyrics are.
You know, I want to say one of the songs that's like that was Negro Problem. And it's interesting because I only got the album last night, so I haven't been able to sit with it the way that I wanted to. But I literally went to the doctor yesterday, right? And one of the conversations around black women and fibroids, and how black women have fibroids at a 3 times greater percentage than white women do. And so in this, can you talk about this song Negro Problems? I was listening to that, and it literally was making me think about my visit of like going to the doctor and the things that we have to deal with in our community that maybe doesn't get you know, the studies that they deserve, to get the money put behind it, because it affects us, like sickle cell and things like that.
No, facts. Yeah, that whole second verse of Negro Problem is kind of hyper focused on medical care, and like the difference in the medical care that we receive as black folks versus other groups. And it's like widely documented that doctors expect black men and women to have a higher pain tolerance, that they don't necessarily like take it as seriously when there's something that a patient believes is a medical emergency. Like you could go down the list, like in terms of transplants, like there's so many things. And I think what I honed in on,
maternal health care, black maternal health care.
That's what I really honed in on, is like when it comes to maternal health care and like, you know, delivering children, like there's a lot of death. There's a lot of like ignoring of medical emergencies. This is all documented. This is not like something I'm just making up. You know what I'm saying? And I think like we hear about it every once in a while when like a study comes out, but it's not really documented in music like that. And so this song is called The Negro Problem. The title is pulled from an old book by Booker T. Washington that was describing some of the issues that Black America faced in terms of it trying to get to upwards mobility. And so I mixed that book, which, you know, has its errors. Like, so I don't want anybody coming after me being like, that book is blah, blah, blah. But like, it's a mixture of that and then this idea of intersectionality, which is that a lot of the problems that we face can find like a general like meeting point of like, I could picture somebody who's not black hearing this and being like, man, we all got problems at the hospital. Or like in the first verse, I talk more about the criminal justice system, or just like the environment that black folks was raised in, or our relationship to violence that then, you know, keeps this cycle of violence going, whether it's towards us or towards each other. And they might hear that and be like, man, I got problems with the police too. And that's kind of the point. That's the idea behind intersectionality, is like everything works on this scale of like the broker you are, the blacker you are, the more otherized you are, the more different you are, you get these issues of society more up close and personal the further you go towards this intersection. And the idea of the hook, it says, my problem is your problem. Your problem is my problem. And basically it's saying like this Negro problem is like the magnified, you know, most in-depth version of the issue that you could see. And that if you fix it within that, like where the real issue is in Medicare, the real issue is in criminal justice, the real issue is wherever, then it'll reverberate and have positive effects on everybody else that's money is fucked up, or, you know, can't find work, can't get proper medical attention, can't get whatever.
Man, it just so happened that song did kind of like resonate with me at that moment in particular too. Just because, like I said, I was saying on the radio, I was like, dang, I ain't been to the doctor in over 2 years to get like a regular checkup. Yeah. And we had a whole conversation about it here. And then somebody called in. This guy said he ain't been in 19 years. And he was like, you know, I don't need to go. He was like, but I did pass out the other day while I was outside smoking a cigarette. But I just had low blood sugar. But I'm not going to the doctor. I'm just going to pray.
That's how the first part of that verse, it also explains like that we have a weird relationship because of our history or understanding of our families or friends' histories with the doctor, that we get the experimental drugs that people, put us through tests without letting us know, whether it's the Tuskegee experiment, whether it's now I'm about to forget her name. She just celebrated. They took her womb or parts of her womb out. What is her name? Jesus Christ. I can't remember, but I've just got so many things going on today. But
I seen you already working all day today.
No, yeah, I'm running around. But like, there's this, weird relationship that we have to the doctor, and especially black men, we don't be wanting to go get certain checkups or stay in the hospital or go get seen or call an ambulance. One, because of the financial part of it, which is crazy. But then also just because we have this innate fear that we could go in there and come out worse than we went in.
Right, you'd be like, nothing was wrong with me, and then I went to the doctor, and now all of a sudden I'm dying. Like,
I think it's a mixture, though, of the two things of, like, there is a certain paranoia that might not even necessarily be there. You might need to go to the doctor and see
for sure.
You know what I'm saying? But then on the other side, like, everything has a little bit of truth to it. So, you could be pulling from your own experience going to the doctor, or what happened when your dad went to the doctor, or you put granny in the hospital and then they messed up something. Like that's a lot of people's stories. That's how that verse ends.
Listen, that's how my grandfather, he was in the hospital. He was having some issue with his hearing, and then he fell in the hospital and died. And I was like, well, dang, it was devastating because we didn't expect all of that to happen.
Fannie Lou Hamer, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Lou Hamer.
Yeah.
Like that's a story of them, stealing her body for medical research and stem cell research.
And we always hear about these organs being stolen and things like that.
All that shit is real, man. All that stuff is real.
Harvesting.
And I don't think it only happens to black people, but it probably happens to black people on a higher scale. And so that's like the idea of it is like we have these issues, but we won't address them. And even on that ending verse of that second verse where I talk more about like medical stuff, the last lines is malpractice we still can't file them. All know the number, but we just won't dial them. It's talking about like my cousin Daquan passed away, I think 4 years ago to the day yesterday, and he was I think he had a headache or something small. He went to one of the worst hospitals in Chicago. I don't want to get into it with them, but I'm just saying he went there, and I think he got a shot for something because he had a seizure, but he passed away in the hospital that same day, super young. I think he was in his early 20s, maybe 21 or 20 years old. But then it was just like, it's kind of what it is in a lot of cases. Like, we go through something where they give your mom or your aunt or whoever the wrong medication, they have an allergic reaction, they have some sort of like organ failure, and then it's just kind of like their hands are in the air, and then we don't be knowing all the things to do or having the money in place to go actually file a malpractice lawsuit. So it's just kind of like explaining these issues that like some people don't see as real issues or say, oh yeah, that's just a Negro problem. And kind of like putting them to the forefront and saying like, no, like if y'all solve this problem, do you know that would positively affect your daughters and your granny and your whoever?
This album has been a long time in the making. And when we talk about the song Like a Tree, I saw that process as like when you first were working on it, and you do let people in a lot on the process of like your writing, so they know what's going on. So talk to me about it, because it's been years. Like how long? 6 years?
6 years.
Yeah, since the last project.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
Yeah.
Did you even anticipate it was going to take you?
Not at all. I would have had it out way sooner if I could. I think I'm glad for the journey that it took, because I got so much knowledge and so many friends made, so many communities. Like I spent a lot of time in Ghana. Like I always got to shout out Ghana, because that brought me a lot of the, understanding of this global community of blackness, how we all been, connected, traveling, creating movements and community internationally for years and years and years and years and years. And so going to Ghana, going to the art fairs and meeting some of the like top artists, like our top contemporary artists, and getting to like be in real community with them definitely informed the album a lot. And I think also like, my personal life changed over and over and over and over again. And I think like in that time, it's funny, like there's some things that'll like happen in the news, like, just where we are as a country and how we stand as a part of like the international community, that I'll have a song that I'm working on, and then I feel like it's done, and then something happens, and I'll be like, man, I knew I was supposed to talk about that. Now I definitely got to talk about that. And I'll go back and like add something or change something or pull something. And I think like music is similar to a painting in that, you know, it's never done till it's done. And really only the artist knows when it's done. And even they sometimes don't necessarily know until you look up one day and like, oh, this piece has always been beautiful, just like this. I thought it was missing something, or I was afraid to release it, or whatever happens. Like, this has to come out. And I think like with this project, everything kind of fell into place in the perfect time. Like, I'm working again with Brandon Bro. That's my dog.
He did the artwork.
He did the artwork.
Cover,
yeah. So I've been working with Brandon since I was 20 or 19 years old. He's like a big brother to me. He ran this really successful clothing company out of Chicago called Enswealth. He's obviously like an international painter. But we did the first 3 projects like when we were both, even though he's older than me, like, you know, younger in our careers. And then like to come back now all these years later and do, you know, another project and be really, really intentional about it, the same way that we were with Coloring Book. You know, Coloring Book, Acid Rap was his idea, right? So he took a picture of me at this random bar, or like with a fan,
and it definitely worked out.
Yeah,
and before you came in here, our producer Dan, he went to the anniversary performance. He said it was one of the best concerts he ever been to.
Yo, thank you, and you're not lying, right?
Yeah,
no, that's it.
You weren't even here.
You got the vinyl joint,
yeah. God.
No, I feel like that's one thing that I can do is I could put on a show.
Yeah,
and I love songwriting, I love recording, I love all the things dealing with music, but my favorite thing to do is be on a stage singing my works. So I feel like with Brandon being back with me and being able to sit in the studio and go through songs and really like what Brandon really focuses on, like he focuses on portraiture, so he's really like intense with the shadowing and like what expression he wants me to have on the cover arts. Except for Coloring Book, that was my idea, to be looking at my daughter to get the smile and stuff. But for this one and all the other ones, he's like, you need to be looking up, or you need to be looking inside, or you need to have your body position like this. And then he spends a long time thinking about what the setting of the painting is. So for this one, he picked, I don't know how to pronounce it, but Aurora Borealis, which I'm gonna just say the easier way to say it, the Northern Lights. And it's like this crazy like cosmic thing that happens that you can only see like every like once in a while, every 3 months. It's like it's a thing. Oh my fucking god, my fault.
All right, your hair's
I just got really. I know my hair's getting long. But there's this thing where like they allow, or people will travel to go get this vision of this beautiful thing that happens cosmically, and you're standing over the water, and in 2 parts he was like, well, one, you know, the space that you go see it, you're right on the waters, and a big like part of this album is pulling from the Black Star Line, which was that shipping and trading company that Marcus Garvey started in the early 1920s that, you know, gave black people the opportunity to trade, to build community. And also, like, you know, a lot of times when we think about black people and ships, we think of slave ships. Like, we think of, like, you know, we don't necessarily think of the idea of, like, an all-black crew, you know, determining their own destination, creating community and all that stuff. And so when I learned about that, I felt that was so empowering. I do believe in, you know, black entrepreneurship, not necessarily black capitalism. They're 2 different things to me. But like, I believe in, like, you know, black people self-determining and creating business and creating networks, and also being able to chart their own path, metaphorically and physically. So like, I really aligned with this idea of like a ship and the waters and all these things as motifs. And so he was like, I love this place because you know, you'll be in nature and in front of the waters. And then also that Northern Lights will work as like, in a way, as like a callback to the North Star and the Black Star, and like, and just like having our, you know, having the stars having our back. And I probably explained it wrong. When Brandon sees this, he's gonna correct me, but like,
you know, it's interesting because you said you have been through a lot of personal changes.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have something familiar that you're comfortable with too, as you're working, as you're putting out something new.
No, 100%. I think Brandon is like somebody that's been with me through all of the changes in my life. And, you know, like, Chicago's so small that we all like kind of grew up together. So, and we're all still, for the most part, really, really close. So having to have him be by my side in this time and also having him be like my introduction to the arts. Like I tell people all the time, like when I first put out 10-Day and Acid Rap, so many people would come to me and tell me like, I had never heard your music before. I never heard anything from you. I clicked on your shit because I seen that artwork.
And the merch is amazing that goes on. Like, it kind of falls into everything.
No, it's all cross connected, and I think he, as a person that used to fail in art class every year and almost got kicked out of school for like a lie that my art teacher told on me in a sophomore year. I've always had a weird separation from art. It was crazy. I'm not even gonna shout her out.
What was the lie?
Bro, something happened where she was something happened where she was telling everybody to shut up, and I was still talking, and she said something along the lines of like, get out the class, and I was like, I bet. And I grabbed my shit and walked out. And then she like told the administration that I had like threatened her and that I've like I physically charged her, some type of crazy shit. I was blessed that there was 30 witnesses in the room.
Yeah,
that was like, this nigga just
make
grabbed his
up
back
in
and
a room full of kids.
It was crazy also because it's like, I hated going to school. Like, I used to not go to school. Like, I went to school downtown in Chicago. I'm from 79, so I would take the train all the way to where all the big buildings are and everything. And then I'd have to look at this school that looks like a jail. And then all around it is these big, beautiful buildings and, like, Dave & Buster's and, you know what I'm saying, places I could just kick it, Panera Bread. And I would just not go to school. So around that time when I started going back to school, I had gotten placed in this arts class I think was, like, the freshman and sophomores art class because I missed that credit and stuff. And so I used to just hate being in there and used to hate having to draw. Like, I'm not good at drawing. So when that stuff happened and she kicked me out, like, it almost ruined my whole, like almost got kicked out of school, all types of stuff.
Why would a teacher do that? That's wild to me.
Me and my teachers was never cool. Like, I have, like, maybe 4 teachers I could think of from kindergarten through, you know, I was always cool with, like, the dean of discipline with, like, certain people that were, like, in the administration that, like, you know, at first they would get tired of seeing me, but then they hear what I got in trouble for. And they were like, oh, you're funny as hell. Like, you got in trouble for doing what? That's
interesting because I feel like education has been so important to you, even as far as with your nonprofits. But it also does show you that the right teachers and the right staffing can make such a huge difference.
No, 100%. I feel like what I learned was, like, when I was in school, I thought differently than a lot of my friends, which was, one of the main things was, like, I never really looked at a teacher as a teacher. Like, I did in the very beginning, and then by the time I got to high school, I was just like, oh, these are just adults that just come here to watch us because our parents got to go to work and because they need some money. So they don't care about making sure that I learn the concepts. They don't care about, like, nothing I got going on, really. They're waiting for the next bell to ring so they could get the next group of kids in here. So they're not going to care that I don't come to class. They're not going to care that I don't understand the concepts. They're not going to care about really nothing other than maybe trying to teach me a lesson because they're going through a divorce or, like, tired of seeing these kids every day or whatever. And so I used to not get along with my teachers at all. And then I feel like once I graduated and I started realizing, like, some of the issues with youth and some of the problems, I'm like, well, one of the main issues is just that these classes are overpopulated and these teachers are underpaid. So, you know, I can't fault them for being human beings. Mm-hmm. And I wish there was a different structure in which we, you know, allow kids to connect with adults. Like, back in the day, we were just talking about this in the car, like, the great philosophers and stuff that we know all came up under, like, a system of, like, learning with one person. Like, they learned with their parents and then they would go study under, you know, whoever was the great philosopher, and then they would in turn come up with their own doctrine, and we still teach that philosophy years and years later. And I say all that to say, like, the less kids it is to teach at a time, the better, you know.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah.
Some kids need special attention too.
I was in special ed.
Yeah, clearly. Oh, you were in special ed?
I was in special ed, like, from 4th grade through graduating high school. I had an IEP, which is an individualized education plan. I had, like, certain classes that I didn't go to that I had to go sit in a room with, like, 7 kids. Like, and what I'll say is that, like, those sort of diagnoses and labels on children definitely mess with their sense of self and confidence. Mm-hmm. And I used to always feel like I was not smart when I was a kid, and obviously I am smart. And the other did y'all know I was in special ed before now? Did y'all even get a hint of a feeling that, right?
I just felt like you needed special attention because sometimes kids that are super creative need that, right?
Yeah.
And it's also not easy when the other kids are making fun of you.
Facts. Like, I think that's the hardest thing, is feeling separated from everybody else.
We had kids that used to fix cars, and they would just be like in the garage outside.
I wish I was at a trade school, then I would know how to do something other than rap. But like, I think like I rap about it a lot on the album actually, in like a couple of different songs. So on the intro and the outro, I kind of touch on it. But like, I think that when I did graduate and I realized some of those things, it made me be like, well, first of all, I started working with kids way sooner. So I was in a lot of after school programs that was for creative stuff. They didn't know I was in a special class. You know what I'm saying? So they treated me like I was a genius because of my raps. And when our mentor died, we all shared a mentor. Me, Vic Mensa, Nico Segal, No Name, Lucky, Mick Jenkins, Saba. Like there's a bunch of people.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we were all in this after school program together in Chicago that was led by this really cool dude with long dreads. His name was Brother Mike. When he passed away, I think we was all probably like 20. This was like shortly after Acid Rap came out, I think. Maybe a little bit later, actually. I'm tripping. This is like 2014, 2015. We all came together and were like, we're going to continue his program ourselves and call it Open Mic. And that kind of like that reconnecting with the kids in that way, having like this thing that was staffed by a bunch of like, you know, burgeoning, or you could call it like already, you know, famous rappers, and having all these kids, you know, that we were like guiding and giving a platform, like that really was the beginning of my social works and nonprofit work, and also like made me be like, oh, like these kids is talented, they just need somewhere to go, they just need someone to be, and that kind of like pushed me into being like, oh, I want to be a mentor like Brother Mike or like some of the people that helped me. I want to be
was like
providing spaces for the
fame
kids
back then.
Yeah, no, it was like, no, and you gotta know, like that's what I think is so funny about this album is like, I'm glad that I took time to like keep parsing out stuff to my fans and supporters that like is more in the direction of the type of stuff I was writing when I was a kid, and what we were, you know, a lot more radical than you know, what I think some of my fans would have been used to if they had only heard Coloring Book or only heard Ass Rap, only heard 10 Day. But like when we were kids, like we was like deep poet activist kind of kids, like all of us, even the ones that like, you know, include myself, like all of my music isn't so, you know, isn't super militant like our poetry and our raps were when we were in high school. And if like anybody could imagine, like we were our exact same selves, just shrunken down with no facial hair and like screaming, you know what I'm saying, about political action and, you know, and stuff like that. And I just think it's all, whenever I think about it, it's just so funny to me. Like we were literally kids, but we knew who we wanted to be and what we wanted to see in the world at a really young age.
You know, one of the standout tracks is No More Old Men on this. And I definitely, as we're talking about all of this and thinking about like, you know, people that have helped you and wanted to continue this program and help the next generation. Can you talk about No More Old Men and what was going on when you were writing that song?
Yeah. So No More Old Men, I've told people a few times at this point and for a long time, it's my favorite record on the album. It's a collaboration between me and Jamila Woods, who I've worked with a bunch of times. She did Sunday Candy with me. She did Blessings with me. She actually was in another after-school program that most of us were in, too. And she's, I think, 2 or 3 years older than me. So she was kind of like a counselor. But, like, Jamila and I were in, like, have known each other since we were kids. And when I made this song, I really wanted to do something that, I'll tell you where it really comes from. So my cousin, her name's Tanikia Carpenter. She's an amazing poet and a million things. Like she's just like a incredible person, but she's a really, really good poet. And she had this piece, I think it was called The Day with No Grandfathers. I'm probably butchering the title, but she basically wrote this piece that was like, you know, because of how many niggas get killed right after they have a kid. She's from Chicago. We're all from Chicago. How many people that pass away before, like right after they have a kid, and how many, you know, old men end up with health problems, dying younger and younger. There's going to be a day in Chicago where there's no papas, is what we be calling them. Like there's no grandfathers. And the piece was just so deep. This is years ago now, that I was like, man, like I love this concept. And so I kind of did the same thing. The first verse is really about the importance of this space that I used to occupy when I would go to the barbershop with my dad. Like there's this, you know, kind of like boyhood, father and son thing that has to happen, or even your mom dropping you or your cousins taking you, where you go to the barbershop and it's all men, and it's like you learn so many lessons. You learn about women, you learn about sports, you learn about, you know, entrepreneurship of niggas that get to come in and bootleg stuff. You learn about, you know, the colloquial barbershop talk. You get that really as a kid, and there's like a very specific cultural like importance to that, you know, we lose as you have less and less old men in the barbershop, less and less fathers in the barbershop. And so that whole verse like kind of tells the story of Mr. Harper, who was the owner of the barbershop on 87th when I was a kid, Mr. Darden, who was one of my neighbors growing up, all the little things that I would see, and then it kind of just like reflects on like, man, a lot of that shit is gone. The second verse talks more so about like my relationship to my father and how I watched him interact with his homies growing up. My dad and I are super, super close, which is not always the story in hip hop. You get it more now with like Kendrick talking about his relationship with his father, the Clips obviously talking about the relationship with their parents. But it's a story it didn't always used to see in rap. And so I talk a little bit about me and my dad, our closeness. Like I got a line that I love so much. It starts off, I say, I danced with my father, Luther Vandross. We played catch so much, I turned to Randy Moss. Like, little lines like that, like, I love so much because they give a beautiful and clever and understandable description of the relationship with me and my dad. And it also, like, you know, it uses hyperbole. So there's a lot of things I like about that, but it goes into further and further, like, describing how my dad and his friends' relationships was, and how even his friends' romantic relationships with their wives was. And it just kind of talks from, a cultural standpoint of like understanding, you know, why they make certain decisions, why people get divorced, why people split up and never get divorced and like just live in two separate rooms or in two different parts of the house. Like that's like me growing up, that was something that I used to see all the time. You know what I'm saying?
It's something we all see. And, you know, and I do want to say, like, even for you, I know that was a hard decision for you to get divorced. And, you know, we watched that struggle, like break up, get back together, you know, and you briefly reference it on the first song and you talk about divorce, child support, all of that. And so I know sometimes people look at you and they're like, okay, Chance the Rapper. Sometimes it feels like, man, you know, my parents stayed married for a long time. They got divorced after I graduated from college and they still live together.
Yeah. No, that's the whole
like,
thing.
But I feel like I wish they would have made that decision to like be happy in life and move on.
Yeah. I think like, I don't know the answers at all. I don't know what's right and what's wrong. I do know that like growing up, I used to see, and I didn't understand it when I was a kid. I'm like, damn, why my uncle sleep in the basement? Like, why is my auntie's room on the top floor? It
just felt normal. Like,
it just felt like that's just how they live. And then you understand like, they at some point made a decision that that's how they wanted to live, but they also decided that they didn't want to, you know, go through court or have their kids living in separate houses or, you know, feel like they were alone in any way. That's what I referenced in the verse. There's a line, I'm going to butcher it, but something where I say, you know, sleep in separate rooms for years when their hearts broke. So at least somebody there if they start to stroke. And it's like, you know, you split up and you spend all this time with somebody and now you alone. And who's going to be there to like be your partner or help you when you get sick or if anything happens to you. Right. And I think that's the decision that a lot of our, you know, parents and aunts and uncles and everybody made to keep some sort of like family house or some sort of family dynamic. Again, not saying that that's the right way to do it,
right,
and not vilifying it because that's what I grew up knowing for a long time. But then also, like, I agree totally that people should go and, you know, in the pursuit of happiness and in the pursuit of love and making decisions that are going to be best for their hearts. And so, like, again, yeah, I don't have all the answers, but I think even in the context of the intro, it's more like, you know, I mention it, but I'm really mentioning it on like the like decision making part of like, tell me how can you now afford to file divorce, the child support, the back door, take the trial to court. The back door and the trial to court is not about my situation.
It's a general.
It's more like other things that's going on in my life that I really don't talk about because I am, you know, like I have like all these things to like worry about. So I like try not to like, I guess, cloud the information that I'm putting out there.
Because sometimes you don't want to say something, it gets misinterpreted or it becomes the headline. When you have an album coming out on Friday.
When I got an album coming out on Friday.
Called Starline, and a tour that you just announced.
And my tour that I'm so excited. That's like my favorite thing in the world is performing, like you were saying, like those acid rap shows. Like, I cannot wait to perform this material and to like put on a show with it for people. And it's been so long since I've been on stage that I really just kind of need, I need that personal connection. I love being on stage and feeding off of the fans and singing the songs together and like altering show mixes of them. And like all of that stuff is like, that's one of my real joys.
You seem like you genuinely like people.
I love people.
I do. You know how some people do it and it's like just because but I feel that you really want to shout each person out and like be a good person. Some people.
You're saying it like it's crazy.
It is sometimes.
No,
I mean,
I think I'll touch on that on the outro of the album. Like, there's certain people that I think, especially the ones that grow up child stars. And I'm not the definition of a child star. I don't even know when I got on, but I feel like I didn't start traveling on a world tour till I was 19. But that's still really young, and you get access to this fame and money and certain like adulation that you think is the same thing as love at a young age, and it kind of like alters your brain chemistry to the point that you can't even like you can't tell the difference between the two things. And so like I love people because since I was a kid, I was doing open mics and like talent shows and doing that whole circuit of like, I love to get a mic in my hand and say what I want to say and get claps and stuff like that. And I think that remains with me. That's just a certain type of person. I think a lot of people that came up in my industry that got on when they were in their teens or were traveling or supporting their family in that way, like they got that same vibe of like, oh yeah, I love people. I want people to love me. You know what I mean?
Listen, I could talk to you all day, but they're telling me we got to wrap up because I know you're...
we got to run over the seat. But
don't run out yet. Let me just close the interview out. Of course. Okay. So make sure y'all get tickets to the show. The album is Starline. Finally is here. Yeah. So I just want to say congratulations to you. I love when
Angela.
We get a chance to...
I do too.
To chat it up as well, even off the mic, like when I run
into you. We be kicking it. Yeah, we do. Tell everybody that's your listener that you really fuck with me, that we really be seeing each other.
I know. Like I really seen him in Atlanta, sat down, had some shots, caught my flight, drunk as hell, ran into him at the Airbnb event in LA. Yeah. Always a good time. Yeah. And you're always in good spirits no matter what's going on. Man. And I do want to say that I took up for you when you were in Jamaica dancing. I was like,
thank you,
that's
man.
how people dance. That's what Carnival is all about. And anybody who's ever been knows that. And
you always have my back, but every time I've ever come in with you, you always are like, what about Bar About a Bar? What about your self-directed thing? You have like real questions, but you have real questions for me, and you really like, I feel the love, and like I'm excited to be,
No, I appreciate how real you are. I was in Chicago in the park, and I see Chance by himself. He just dropped his daughter off to school.
Oh, yeah.
Just leaving the park. I was like, is that Chance the Rapper walking across the park?
I'm a regular nigga. I'll be walking around Chicago. Really I'm also not sweet, but I'll be just chilling. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just be chilling.
But I appreciate you, and congratulations on everything. And I can't wait to have you on Lip Service.
I was going to say, we on Lip Service next.
Get in your mix. You know what I'm saying? Once I get to really live with this album and go through it all. But congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Angela.
All right.